Hello, welcome along. Thanks for joining us. It is stage 3 of the PostNord Tour of Denmark. 202.9 kilometers in total from Fredericia to Vejle today. And if you weren't with us yesterday, what a finish we had. Jensen Plowright coming through there like a rocket. And at the throw to the line between him and Wout van Aert, initially they awarded the stage to Jensen Plowright, but on re-looking at the photo finish, the stage went to Wout van Aert. So it was Wout van Aert, Jensen Plowright and Toon Aerts yesterday. And Wout van Aert leads the Tour of Denmark by 14 seconds, 16 seconds to Henrik Pedersen. Thanks for your company, Martin McDonald and Michael Hutchinson with you to take you through today's race action. Michael, the map, it's fair to say, it's fairly crazy to keep a track of this one today.
Yeah, no chance. It's kind of like the Tour of Flanders, but wigglier. So there aren't a lot of hills in Denmark, and quite a lot of them are around here, so they're sort of packing it in. We usually have a stage at Tour of Denmark that finishes in Vejle, so that's what we're doing today. Look at it.
It is.
Thing of beauty.
Yeah, absolutely bonkers when you look at that. How and who came up with that route? Let's have a look at the intermediate King of the Mountains. So we got along the route today. So Boris Lyskart taking that first one and taking that ahead of Axel Scott Hansen and Andreas Stoppro. Breakaway going clear with 180 kilometers to go. Stage 3 of the PostNord Tour of Denmark, and the stage today from Fredericia to Vejle. 202.9 kilometers in length, and a fairly hefty one in terms of the elevation that the riders are tackling today here on stage 3. A touch under 3,000 meters of climbing. Our breakaway group, so Emil Schandorf, Boris Lyskart, Andreas Stoppro and Axel Scott Hansen have 53 seconds advantage, and it's fairly wet as well today. It's quite unlike the rest of Europe here, the conditions today.
Yeah, it's quite unlike the last couple of days. The last couple of days have been warm, dry, quite windy. So at least it's not windy today. But no, it's quite drizzly. Is supposed to dry up as the afternoon goes on. So hopefully by the time we get to the finish, it'll be a little bit more clement.
So the weather conditions is 14 to 16 degrees Celsius, about 58 to 61 Fahrenheit. Rain forecast throughout the afternoon, but as Michael said, that it should clear up. Fingers crossed as the afternoon goes on. Just a 5 to 9 kilometer an hour wind coming from the west, gusts of 19 to 21. Just a crash there as well, just a little touch of wheels. We've had a couple of crashes as well, and we also had a rear wheel puncture with around 100 kilometers to go for Thibaut Del Grosso. I mean, that was one of those just complete freak crashes there, that one.
That was I mean, it just looked like a random touch of wheels. Brought the rider down, brought the rider behind him down. Rain jackets are struggling today to identify quite a lot of the riders, it has to be said. I've heard 3 or 4 different versions of the composition of the break already, so we're not completely 100% sure about that, actually.
Yeah,
it's quite interesting because the break had at one point sort of 3 minutes was about as much as it got to, and the Danish national squad on an unclassified climb at about 100 kilometers to go, the Danish national squad absolutely lit it up and pulled the break back to within 10 or 15 seconds. Then 2 of them managed to get in a bit of a tangle and a crash at the front of the race. Since when it's gone back out to, as you can see, it's back out to a minute. But the Danish national squad really did set their stall out a bit there.
They did indeed. Thibaut Del Grosso, so 70th place at 3 minutes and 19 seconds. So as we said, he had a puncture, so rear wheel puncture. So back after that is Thibaut Del Grosso, so cyclocross sensation is Thibaut. We've got 9.7 kilometers to go into the third King of the Mountains point of the day. I mean, categorized King of the Mountains, it's pretty much up and down all day. As you said, Michael, they're crisscrossing pretty much every hill in this region, which means we are going backwards and forwards through some of the KOM points in the other direction.
Yeah, my favourite feature of this course is the first and second KOM points with the same climb, the same first Kai climb, which isn't that unusual, but we had already been across it in both directions before we turned round and came back to do the lap that included it as a categorised climb. So they've been over that summit 4 times, 3 times one way, 1 time the other way, twice classified, twice unclassified. You do have to concentrate to keep up with it, it has to be said, on this course today.
Yeah, it's as you said, whoever came up with this course is an absolute genius, I think. Little Trek now coming through towards the front, or they're out chasing Strava records, one of the two.
Yeah, it's been a fun race the last couple of days. Actually, the Tour of Denmark often is. You kind of think the Tour of Denmark, well, that sounds like a time trial and 4 sprints if ever I heard of it. And actually, typically not. Lots of sort of small group sprints. That's an unhappy look. Lots of small group sprints, bits and pieces. That's Henry Ulig from Alpecin Premier Tech. So kind of, it's been a bit random. The last couple of days have been good fun. We've had wind the last couple of days, quite a few crashes, some echelon action, but today is, as you say, Marty, very different. This is kind of the Queen stage. It's a long stage, a lot of climbing, and a very classic-y feel to it. I mean, it looks and feels a lot like Flanders in April.
It does, and you look at the sort of narrow roads that you've got here as well, and it does. As Boris Lischgaard here just starts to drift off the back, but it's got that sort of very, very little narrow roads, short, snappy little climbs, and you look at this, and it does with that sort of classics feel of over 200 kilometers as well. It is a sort of day where Wout van Aert, it should kind of, he really should excel on a day like this.
Yeah, he's won the last 2 stages, just as we saw yesterday, and it does feel like a Wout van Aert kind of a stage. I mean, I'm watching Tibor del Grosso as well. We had the same finishing circuit on stage 4 of this race last year when Mads Pedersen won with a solo attack. How about that? We don't see Mads Pedersen off winning, taking solo wins, but I think he was about a 30-kilometer solo attack last year to win it. He took 3 stages last year. And you've got to wonder Wout van Aert might not be capable of taking 3 stages this year, including this one. But Tibor del Grosso was second on this stage in Vela last year, so I think he'll be interested this year too.
And let's just touch on yesterday though as well, because it was an interesting finish. I mean, when we looked at that replay and we saw just how quick Jensen Plowright came through. I mean, he did come through. I mean, classic cliche. He did come through like he'd been fired out of a cannon. And you throw your bike at the line, and in that situation where it's so close, it is that sort of thing as a sprinter, isn't it? Because sprinters have that sort of swagger. It's like, if in doubt, celebrate it out. It's one of those things, isn't it? Because Wout van Aert looked at him as if he was like, yeah, mate, you got that.
Yeah, Wout, I read an interview with Wout where he said that he really didn't know who'd won, but Jensen Plowright seemed pretty sure he'd won, so Wout thought, oh, okay, fair enough, well done, mate. Usually the riders know if it's more than an inch or 2. The riders know because they're closer to it than anyone else. But I think it was just, as you say, Jensen Plowright came through so fast. I think, to be honest, the team were riding for Tibor del Grosso. Jensen Plowright was sitting behind Tibor del Grosso, but just kind of came past Tibor and Tibor's lead out because a big space just opened up, and he thought, well, I've got a bit of pace, a great big gap has opened up, I'm just going to ride through that. And he came through going several kilometers an hour faster than Wout, and I think that can create the sort of illusion that you've won, because by the time you cross the line, you're half a wheel in front. And I think that was what happened, and I think the organisers kind of believe Jensen Plowright, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot to call that as a sort of commissaire, I suppose, as well, especially someone who's looking at that, and it's a situation. I mean, it's happened quite a few times over the year, many times over the years in the world. So it is. But Wout van Aert got his moment on the podium. But here we go. We got 84.8 kilometers to go. Little Trek seem very active here at the front of this one to try and set things up today. And Little Trek, Soren Kragh Andersen, Patrick Boy of 3K. We got Matthias Sundekar, Norsgaard, Matt Valscheid, Jakob Sogerfist, and Tim Thorn Teutenberg is the makeup of their team. Tim Thorn Teutenberg is 5th at 20 seconds. Soren Kragh Andersen is 8th at 20 seconds as well. So couple of decent options within 20 seconds of Wout van Aert for Little Trek here.
Yeah, looking today, I think towards Soren Kragh Andersen. Probably not a finish for Tim Thorn Teutenberg, although we've got more sort of sprinty stages the next couple of days, so it would be well worth his while trying to stay up at the front group if that's something you can manage. I think the race is probably going to break up a little bit into, we've got 3 laps of the finishing circuit, which is 9.7 kilometers long. It's got 3 climbs on it, one of which is a classified climb. And it's actually, sorry, it's not a classified climb, but it is the climb to the finish. And I think that's going to be a really tough circuit. And I don't really expect very many of the more sprinty riders to really survive for the finish. Some sort of the more utility sprinters might make it, but I think there's every chance we're going to see a different kind of a finish today to the last couple of days.
Because we enter the finishing circuit with 33.1 kilometers to go. First passage of the line comes with around 29 kilometers to go. Then we've got 3 sort of full laps there of 9.7. We finish on the 3rd passage, so we've got the 9.7 kilometers to go on the finishing circuits. But it's one of those days though when you start to click over 200k in a stage race. These are the days where those big classics riders like Wout van Aert really, it's that, you know, where you've got this mix as we have here in Denmark of the World Tour teams and the Conti teams. It is that sort of repeated days in the legs over their career of over 200 kilometers, because there is a bit of a switch, isn't there, when you start to get over 200k, especially on a really sort of wet, it's not super cold, but it is quite wet, and that still takes its toll.
Yeah, on the other hand, there's lots and lots of Danes in this field, and they'll be quite used to it. 48 Danish riders in this race. Started with about, I think, 145 riders rolled out on day 1, 48 of whom were Danish, which is quite the ratio. I think there are one or two other people one would look at, but I agree. You know, the rider I would write down first today would be Wout van Aert. Yeah, he's clearly in good form for the last couple of days, back from that kind of elbow injury, the infection, missing the Tour de France, really keen to prove himself, coming in good form, and this just feels like a stage that ought to really suit him. Christophe Laporte, also we can see with the European Champions band on his arms, the blue band sitting 3rd wheel. Again, he might be a rider for today as well. They do have 1 or 2 options.
And you've got to say as well, the modern adventure team in this kind of burgundy colour, they've been really impressive in this race. So really aggressive over the opening days.
Yeah, they have been. And actually, as a new team to the peloton this year, they've kind of ridden like that in every race they've done. They've been a great addition.
So the Modern Adventure Pro Cycling team on the front here. We have our breakaway group. We'll give you a gap to them momentarily. Thanks for joining us today for stage 3 of the PostNord Tour of Denmark. From Fredericia to Vejle, just 202.9 kilometers in total is today's stage, and Wout van Aert is leading in the general classification, having won the opening 2 stages, despite being super close yesterday and initially being awarded to Jensen Plowright, with Toon Aerts in 3rd place yesterday. But Wout van Aert goes into this stage 14 seconds ahead of Lukas Kubis. We've got Henrik Pedersen 3rd at 16 seconds. Pierre-André Cote is at 20 seconds. Tim Thorn Teutenberg, Thomas Capecchi, Christophe Laporte, Soren Kragh Andersen are also at 20 seconds down to 8th place. Gustav Wang in 9th for Denmark, and Jensen Plowright 10th at 31 seconds. Those are the gaps in the points classification going into today. Wout van Aert leading with 30 points ahead of Jensen Plowright 16 and Lukas Kubis with 15. We had Nielsen, Malberg and Hausing in the lead in the King of the Mountains, 28, 16 and 12 points respectively. Team Visma Lisa Bike leading in the team standings, but level with the Unibet Rose Rockets and Uno X Mobility third at 17 seconds. And the team of Modern Adventure Pro Cycling, so made up of Robin Carpenter, Ezra Cowdell, Scott McGill, Ben Oliver, Hugo Scala, Tyler Stites, and Paul Wright is their team. Ben Oliver is their highest placed rider coming into today. He's 17th at 37 seconds. So their option, got to keep, if he can, keep him up there in the general classification. But they're sort of, when those sort of teams like Modern Adventure come into a race like this, it's that sort of put yourself in the shop window stage hunt kind of opportunity.
Yeah, I think that's right, Marty. And do you know, I'm a tiny bit surprised they're as active today. Yesterday and the day before, tomorrow and the next day, particularly, I can see them looking towards Ben Oliver. But they're bringing this to the race today as well. As I say, they've been a new team this year, US team. George Hincapie very much the animating force behind them. Which a name we all remember, I think, if you are at least as old as I am, anyway. And they've really come and raced hard and been very active and made a real difference to the racing. And Ben Oliver has been something of a revelation. He's a kind of a new rider to the European circuit. And yeah, he's 29 years old, so he's not by any stretch, a new rider. But I hadn't really come across him before, and he's had some great results this year. Oh no!
Oh, big crash, unfortunately. And we've had a few crashes, and you can just see quite a few riders, unfortunately, just going down here on the left. So this is Paul Wright there. So hopefully everyone is okay.
Hugo Scala, Paul Wright, you say? Yeah, I think that was Anders Folliger who was on the... I'm not completely sure. It was either Anders Folliger or Chris Jules Jensen was on the ground in the foreground. And Anders Folliger would be, I think, who the Danish team were really working for today. So...
yeah, big shame. It's
Jules Jensen, actually.
Yeah, Riley Sheehan here as well. Chris Jules Jensen, as you've mentioned. Very experienced rider. And riders just taking their time here to just pick themselves up as well. It's this moment as well. It's slippy corner and unfortunately with the metal barricade at the side. As we always say, we never speculate on anything, but it's just taking that time, and you can see the sort of cracks that it's put in the peloton there as good groups try and sprint to get back on here. But it is taking that moment just on that sort of situation with that many riders when they go down. It is just taking that time, isn't it, to just check yourself over, especially if you don't have GC aspirations in this one, and just making sure you're okay.
Yeah, we've seen a couple of crashes today, a lot like that, just riders sliding out on slippery corners.
I think that one's done.
Going to need a new bicycle.
Yeah.
That is the bike of Vila Merlov, the Swedish rider on the BHS team. Yeah, and very much on those crashes, it very often depends what you slide into. If there's kind of a nice sort of runoff and a nice verge, often they're not that bad because the water's a bit of a lubricant on the road. You just slide off. But where it does get dangerous is if there's anything to really hit other riders, crash barriers, walls, that sort of thing. Perhaps a little bit of a truce just in the peloton here. Having said that, the gap to the brake's not going out particularly. But there will be a lot of riders in here with teammates trying to get on behind. We can see one group coming through now. There's at least one other group behind them, and there will be a fourth group behind them of the riders who we saw a moment ago still just sort of sorting themselves out, trying to get bikes and so on. So we have a minimum, I think, of 4 groups on the road.
So we hit our next climb. This is the Sauve climb, 700 meters, averaging 9%. So they're all Category 1 climbs that we've got today, and they are just with these as we're sort of getting our KOMs sort of for the first time. We've got twice up this one categorized, but it's these short, sharp little climbs like this. It's what I'd call a kind of leg snapper kind of day, these sort of climbing sort of days, because all the climbs are short and sharp. It's not like climbing a mountain.
Yeah, well, they're calling this the King of the Hills competition, not the King of the Mountains. And it's very bergy. It's kind of has a Flandrian feel. It's not cobbled, but that's really all that's missing, apart from 15,000 drunk Flandrians. But it feels a lot like that. See, this is averaging 10%, but a lot of the climbs in this race, they are taking those, the KOM points. They're stretching them out a bit to make the climb longer, but then that produces an artificially low gradient, because that in the middle, this is, that's more than 9%, but at its worst, I would be completely confident.
So as we go up towards the summit of the climb, is Stockbro going to go for the points here? Looks like he is. Andres Stockbro just powering clear on our third KOM of the day to take maximum points there. Andres Stockbro through for that. We just look down now at the peloton, and it does look like it's just a slightly more serious little look to the front of the group here. Visma Lease bike very much up towards the front, so are the Unibet Rose Rockets. And on this sort of day as well, it's all about positioning. Positioning is key, isn't it, on these short, sharp little climbs? Just making sure that you don't get caught out, don't get caught on the wrong side of a split.
Yeah, it's not as terrifying positioning-wise as some of the the Railspring Classics, where you have very narrow roads, very narrow entrances to the climbs. It's not quite like that, but on a climb this steep, if you are kind of caught at the back, you're a long way from what's going on at the front, and particularly you just don't want to get caught out by a split, because that can happen so easily in this sort of climb.
So Stockbro from Scott Hansen from Shandorf Iversen was our order over the KOM point. So 127 is the gap. So there's your Visma Lease bike team. So Wout van Aert, Nicky Sparens, Mino Housing, Christophe Laporte, Pietro Matteo, Ashlyn Barry, and Jonas Hoydal. So a real mix of nations within our Visma Lease bike team. And there's a lot of excitement around Ashlyn Barry in this team.
Yeah, there is. The American, he was on the attack earlier on. He's mainly here, I think, to work, but he's a rider with a lot of talent. And we have had a change at the top of the King of the Mountains classification. Axel Scott Hansen, who was second over the last climb in the break today, is now the virtual wearer of that jersey, having taken that off Sebastian Nielsen, who I'm sure was trying to get into the break today, but unfortunately for him, couldn't manage it.
And that's the thing, on a day like today, taking that lead in the King of the Mountains classification, there are so many points on offer in this one today. It's a perfect day if you've got designs on that King of the Mountains classification just to get in that breakaway and get that jersey. Because for the Conti teams, for national teams, getting a jersey like this in a race like this is a massive deal for them.
Yeah, it is, and we've got 4 first cat climbs today, which are worth, check my regulations notes, they're worth 12 points each. Tomorrow there are 2 second cat climbs, and on the last day there's 1 second cat climb, so that is a grand total after today of 18 points in total that are available. So you if you can establish a decent lead here, and I think we've got one cat one climb left to go. Have I got that right? Yes, we do. So there's the potential to come to the end of today with a pretty decent lead in that competition, if you can defend it over the next couple of days. It's interesting you mentioned the national team, because actually, and usually the Danish national squad here is a really good team. We were used to the national squad being often under 23 and development riders, and the Danish squad here is pretty good. Anders Folliger would be their leader, but they've got good riders like Gustav Wang and Chris Jules Jensen, who unfortunately we last saw getting up off the road, but a strong team.
Yeah, it's the SWAT club going on the attack here. So that's light blue, white and pink jersey. Uno X Mobility and Visma Lease bike just trying to get in on the action here. 75 kilometers to go. And as you build through a stage like this as well, I mean, we see it more and more in pro cycling is that the racing, especially on a day like this, starts to go sort of between here and 60 and into 50k to go.
Yeah, it just happens earlier and earlier. I'm early enough to old enough to remember when you could pretty much assume nothing was ever going to happen until the last 50 kilometers, and that's not the way bike racing happens anymore.
No, I mean, if you look at the way I mean, Tadej Pogacar as basically, you know, and Mathieu van der Poel have kind of ripped up the rule book now, haven't they? In terms of, as you said, it was always quite, especially on sprint days, flat sprint days were quite processional, weren't they? You'd say, right, nothing, breakaway's going to go away. It'll get 6 minutes, it'll get caught with 10k to go. It just doesn't happen. It doesn't, you know, happen very much like that anymore either. And it's just changed everything. It's changed men's cycling completely. I mean, I mainly commentate women's cycling, which has always been like this. And don't forget, folks, Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift starts tomorrow. Make sure you join us live every day for that. But it was almost like we would always say in the women's commentary that the lads kind of looked at the way the women raced and went, "That looks like fun. Let's do a little bit more. Let's race a bit more like that." 73.7 kilometers to go. Nicholas Larson on the attack here, 34th place at 37 seconds. It's a minute and 23 seconds from your breakaway group to what is, you would say, a kind of rapidly fracturing peloton that are really keen to just get this underway. And there is a lot to play for in this one today. And ahead of the race, Emil Shandorf Iversen, Andreas Stockbro and Axel Scott Hansen is the makeup of our breakaway group. We did have a bit of a crash. We haven't had any more updates on that, but we had a bit of a crash. Jensen Plowright there wearing the points jersey, so the points jersey, the green jersey, and we've got the white, we've got the Best Young Riders jersey up towards the front as well, who's looking very active. Henrik Pedersen.
Yeah, he was second on the first stage. Rode fairly strongly again yesterday. He's been up at the front again today. I think more in a kind of perhaps a working capacity today. I think maybe they're looking at Rasmus Tiller. But Henrik Pedersen is also, I mean, he's sitting third, as you say, on GC, 16 seconds down, so they've got that to defend as well. And they've been a very active team in the last couple of days. They broke the race to bits in a crosswind section yesterday. Their timing was absolutely perfect. People spent a lot of yesterday trying to break the race up on the crosswinds, but really they were the only team that did it, and it was textbook. And of course, they're kind of a local team in Scandinavia. Brought a strong squad with them, and obviously keen to make an impression.
And that's what's great, as you said, to see so many Danish riders and so many of the sort of local teams that are in this race and racing so strongly as well in this one. I mean, a long time ago now, Magnus Backstedt and our Conti team that we ran was based out of Sweden, and so we spent a lot of time racing in Sweden, in Denmark, in Norway, you know, and it's always been it's always had a really, really strong domestic scene as Denmark. I mean, the Grand Prix Herning is a great classic race, very sort of again ahead of its time. A lot of gravel that it had as well. I remember renting a brand new Volvo to use as a team car and from the airport. Took it back. It didn't look new when I took it back after going around the Grand Prix of Herning in the dust. But you
tossed him the keys and made a run for it.
I got my deposit back anyway. But it's great to see. You know, the domestic scene is always, and the cycling scene here is so strong. I was really lucky to go out to Aalborg, where you and commentate on and announce on the Gran Fondo Worlds couple of years ago. I mean that was a great experience, and the cycling scene. I mean, probably 5,000 plus people that were taking part in that. But just the cycling scene around Denmark is really, really strong. It's great to see.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've got 7 Danish Conti teams here. And, you know, they're really making the racing. They've ridden really well. It's, you know, it's such a strong cycling nation. It always catches me a little by surprise. I should know better. I was thinking of the Danish cyclists being really kind of good time trialists, but there's so much more depth to it than that. But that's still kind of my perhaps unreasonable reflex.
I mean, that's an incredible amount of Conti teams as well.
It is.
As well, because,
Yeah.
you know, with the economy, global economy being the way it is for sponsorship, and it's great to see so many domestic teams. I've just had a reminder as well for Brian Smith that he won the 1994 Grand Prix Herning as well. But, you know, Scottish cycling legend, of course, tough man like Brian Smith won the Grand Prix of Herning. So it's a phenomenal bike race, that one as well.
It's quite a strong group that is just kind of dangling a little off the front.
I
They
think
are going to get reeled in.
yeah, made up of Menno Housing. We've got Storm Ingebrigtsen, Francisco Munoz, Nicholas Larsen and Matthias Malmberg.
Matthias Malmberg has been very, very active in this race for the SWAT Club, the very distinctive pink and blue and white. They have, you know, an Italian Conti team. They've raced hard this week. Best known, of course, for Filippo Conca. He won the Italian National Championships as an amateur riding for them last year. I think that's what most of us know SWAT Club for, but they brought their A game here as well.
We certainly have. On to our next climb along the route. So we've got 9 kilometers till our next climb, next categorized climb. But the course is just peppered today with all these really short, sharp little climbs. As we said, we're kind of doing these ever decreasing circles along the route today. So this is a climb on this sort of middle loop that we've got before we will head into middle loop.
One of the many middle loops, I think, yeah. I mean, they've clearly in this, they've worked out how many categorized climbs they can have to keep the KOM competition kind of halfway open, because there's at least another half a dozen climbs today that are the same as the categorized climbs in their difficulty. So they've worked it backwards from how many Cat 1 climbs can we acceptably have, because this is, you know, it's got 3 times the elevation gain of any of the other stages.
Andreas Stockbro just starting to go clear here, so we just go back. Rear wheel puncture there for Jonas Højdahl. So no,
yeah, he's been on the front a lot today. He's already had a bit of a day out, because he's been the main rider that Visma have been using to control the race early on.
Yeah, and he's on days like this as well. Those little, you know, I don't know what the weather, how much rain they've had recently in Denmark, but sometimes it does just wash all the flints and everything and little stones out of the side, and just makes it kind of, you end up with quite a few punctures like we've got today. But Andreas Stockbro is going on the attack. So yeah, just you get that feeling as well. He's a very experienced rider, isn't it, as well, Andreas Stockbro. But you get that instinct as a rider of his sort of experience as well, that when that breakaway is your companions are just starting to tire, and that sometimes the best thing is to just go clear on your own.
Yeah, there's a real balance. I think it's very easy to go too early as well, when you sort of just feel a bit of that momentum going out of it and people beginning to look over their shoulders. But yeah, Anders Stockbro has decided that this is the moment to go. He's also, of course, he's up there on the King of the Mountains competition, so if he can hang on for another 8Ks, which he might do, he's 4th in the King of the Mountains competition, so he can get himself up to sort of 3rd in that classification, which gives him a springboard for the next couple of days to be within reach. So also Combativity, of course. Another good reason to throw in that last gasp attack. Combativity classification is fun here, actually, because it's decided each day by a jury, but they award points of 12, 8, and 3 for the 3 most combative riders, and then the super combativity at the end of the week is calculated as a sort of a points classification, which I think that's quite nice. Feels very Danish. Feels very Danish.
It's a great way to do it. I love a combativity award, especially when you've got a breakaway that don't want to get caught and everyone's just attacking each other to be the last rider standing out of the breakaway. We just saw Aislinn Barry just heading back to the team car. 18 years old, national under-23 road champion. Aislinn Barry, winner of a stage win in the Olympias Tour this year. You kind of sense for the young American that this is definitely a team that will look after him and bring him on at the right pace.
Yeah, you hope so. You also hope that he gets the opportunities, because when you're in a team with so many stars and so many big riders, that can kind of be the risk. You get the support, but sometimes you don't get the chance.
Great track rider as well, great time trialist, Aislinn Barry, and of course, for him, he'll be hoping and building into the next Olympics.
Yeah, absolutely. Son, of course, of Michael Barry, who rode for Sky among other teams. Canadian, who some people will remember if they are as old as we are.
And his mum, of course, Dee Dee, very, 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 very quick rider as well.
Anders Stockborough looks pretty decent for the money here.
Yeah, he's really powering on here, colour quick rider.
I mean, he's 29 years old, he's quite experienced. I mean, I think he was the only rider out of that initial break who's got a pro win. He won a stage in the Tour of Estonia 8 years ago, if I remember my notes. So he ought to be kind of a wise head from the group, and maybe he's timed that pretty well, because he's still, I reckon, holding on to about a minute over the group. So his main ambition, I think, will be to get over that King of the Mountains Prime. If he can manage it. He's probably not going to make the circuit solo at 33 kilometers to go, but he's looking okay for the minute.
Here's Wout van Aert's Visma Lease bike team here on the front, but the helicopter shot there, you can see it's been a really, as well as those crashes, a very attritional day. The peloton is just, every little short, sharp climb that we have here is just shrinking this group considerably.
Yeah, we haven't seen a lot of sort of shots from the back of the peloton today. I don't think we've got a moto in there, but this kind of day, and the weather doesn't necessarily make people more enthusiastic about it, but yeah, it just drops people out every so often. The elastic snaps and 1s and 2s just disappear. And of course, as you get a bit nearer the finish, there will be riders who reckon that, okay, I'll let it go now and we'll ride this home. And we'll be here to fight another day if they finish within the time limit. Time limit's 12%, just in case that's a piece of information that becomes relevant later in the day.
Yes, and there is still a long way to go in this race, though, as well, isn't there? And it's kind of, for those riders like Wout van Aert who missed out on the Tour de France, and those riders, that may have missed out through injury and that kind of thing. This is where this sits, is a really good point to build into the back end of the season here, isn't it?
It sits in the middle of the Venn diagram. It's there's a lot of riders here actually who haven't really raced since some of them done the Giro, quite a lot of them did nationals, but there's not a lot that goes on during July because of the Tour de France. So there's a lot of riders coming back to racing. Quite a keen peloton, lots of attacking, lots of machinations, which is produces good racing. And I think it's no coincidence that we quite often get good racing in the Tour of Denmark at this time of year.
And when you add in the mix of teams that we've got here as well, because all of the Conti teams and the smaller teams that that come into this one, it is that you always come in fired up, ready to kind of take a scalp. If you can, it's going up against those World Tour teams, isn't it? With full confidence.
Everybody's got something to play for, and I think it also helps a little bit that we've got so many. Oops.
Oh, can't park there, mate. Bit of grass cutting.
Nice soft landing for Sam Brand, British rider for Novo Nordisk. If you're going to fall off, to be fair, guys, that is very much the way to do it.
He did it with style. I mean, fair play, did it with style there as well. We would only say that because he bounced up so quickly.
Rory Townsend is going to take that prize for this Tour of Denmark, because he did something similar except much, much faster and finished a good 50 yards from the road. A couple of days ago there was a big crash, which actually, you know, not really funny. It was quite an unpleasant crash in some ways, but Rory ended up bouncing off into the landscape. One of those ones where you kind of got to pick up your bike and work out which direction the road is. You kind of stand up and go, why do I have to walk?
But quickly up and on his way there, Sam Brand of Team Novo Nordisk. So they're a team in this race. So Declan Irvin, Juan Jose Lopez, Bailey McDonald, Antonio Polga, and Filippo Rodolfo, Umberto Poli, and abandoned from their team. And always they've been around for so many years now, Team Novo Nordisk. And what I always love about the, you know, from especially having sort of known them through their early days, of the amount of sort of community work that they do in races, or when they go around the world in raising, you know, awareness of diabetes.
Yeah, they're quite a special team in that regard. I think most people know that all of the riders for Novo Nordisk are type 1 diabetics. And it's a team with that kind of purpose that, yeah, does a lot of good, and sort of has persisted. I occasionally, rather cynically, think that you sometimes get kind of issue awareness teams, that kind of is, that flare briefly for a year or two and then the money runs out. And actually Novo Nordisk have been around for quite a few years. I'm doing, as you say, Marty, doing good work.
Yeah, I mean, they go wherever they go in the world. I mean, I've been in, you know, a lot of races with them over the decades in Asia, where they're, you know, around the world as well, where they're doing a lot of outreach and a lot of, as I said, sort of community and awareness. And as well, you know, they're racing at elite level with diabetes and the monitoring and everything that you have to do as a type 1 diabetic. Team Novo Nordisk they've pushed barriers, they've pushed lines, and a lot of what they're doing, you know, the research and everything, the sports science that goes around riders and what they're doing as well, it's, you know, it's helped, you know, helping a lot of people sort of get into and stay in and have aspirations of professional sporting careers that probably 10, 20 years ago they wouldn't have had.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And I mean, there are other examples. I might often think of my friend Alex Dowsett as a haemophiliac, and I think the only sort of elite haemophiliac sportsman in the world when he was racing. But that kind of thing as an example to people who are often used to being told about the problems, not the opportunities, I think it's something very positive.
It is 61.7 to go, minute and 20 from Andreas Stockbro to the peloton. The next hill sprint, so next King of the Hills, starts in just under a kilometre's time, and this rider here has designs on trying to take this jersey overall. So the last KOM he got 12 points. He took 4 on Com 1 and Com 2 I'm still missing for some reason, the result of KOM 2, but definitely moving up in the standings.
I've got the result for KOM 2 if you want it.
Yeah, go.
Boas Lisgard won it. Axel Scott Hansen was second, and Anders Stockbro was third.
Okay, I've got them. That came through to me as Com 1. So Com 2 then, we'll take that one as well. So that was our early break as well. So going into this one then, Michael, so we've got Andreas Stockbro fourth with 16 points scored
he's
today.
Fourth at the minute with 16. If he takes this, which I'm pretty confident he's going to score 12, which will take him to 28, so that puts him equal second with Sebastian Nielsen, who is wearing the jersey at the minute. But it's still going to be Axel Scott Hansen who gets that jersey tomorrow. But it makes it kind of quite tightly poised going into the next couple of days, because we'll have 3 riders separated by 6 points. So, and it's always nice to see the sort of subsidiary competitions having middle life to them.
It is. So the survey climb, we've been up this once already, 700 meters, averaging 9%. And good to see the hardy Danes have all come out to the hill to cheer them on here.
Yeah, saying actually, I haven't seen a lot of flags today. It's one of the things that's always very distinctive of Denmark are the number of Danish flags you see out. Somebody texted us yesterday. Jose and I were commentating here yesterday, and they texted us to say that in Denmark the flag is very much a sort of a celebration. If it's a birthday or a wedding or something, people fly Danish flags. Haven't seen as many of them today. They're really useful on a windy day for working out kind of the crosswinds, the tailwinds.
Yes, definitely. So Andreas Stockbro is just powering up to the summit of the climb, and there's the helicopter shot. You can see just how much this group is thinning down. And Visma Lease bike coming into this next climb, they really look like they mean business.
Yeah, they do. They really want to set this up for Wout, because he's taken 2 stages so far. I think he's got a great chance to take today, and I'm guessing he feels good just from the way the team are riding, because they could just sit back a bit and let somebody else boss this. But they're really committed here.
What he may also feel though on this is to try and on this stage with this much elevation is to try and get clear here and start, you know, you're starting to edge the lead out of the sort of battle for bonus seconds.
Yeah, and you want to try and get rid of some of the sprinters who are within reach. I mean, I'm just glancing down my start sheet, for example. Tim Teutenberg is only 20 seconds behind, so it'd be a nice idea to get rid of him. Lucas Kubish is second on 14 seconds. If you can actually put fresh air between yourself and Lucas Kubish, if you're Wout van Aert, that's a great idea. And today is the only real chance to do that this week.
Tough day out. You can see Emil Schandorf Iversen there, 82nd at 3:19. And he, on a day like this as well, he's just kind of ridden himself to a standstill here.
Yeah, it is a tough day and a lot of climbing.
So the Visma Lease bike team here, as Iversen is about to be swept up. He's done the right thing, you would say, just in terms of trying to recover, grab a feed. You just want to try and get over the top of the climb if you can. Your white jersey there, your best run rider, Pedersen, leading that classification. As we just go back to Max Valscheid. So as you said there, Michael, we're just trying to get rid of some of the sprinters here, and it's having the desired effect.
Yeah, and I mean, there's lots of opportunity that we've got another. It's not a classified climb, but at 52 kilometers to go, we've got another climb that's more or less the same as the one we've just been up. So, you know, if you are a team who wants to ride hard, you've got opportunities to do damage. That's current King of the Mountains jersey wearer Sebastian Nielsen sliding out the back door.
Yeah, so in that green jersey, the Colour Quick rider. So it's his teammate up at the head of the race that's chasing points in this one, so closing the gap. So Otto Jolving has abandoned the race, but that gap now down to just over a minute for Andreas Stockbro. We're 59.1 kilometers to go. And if you are just joining us for the first time today, welcome aboard. It's the PostNord Tour of Denmark, stage 3 from Fredericia to Vejle. 202.9 kilometers in length. One by one, our early breakaway group are being swept up by the peloton that's being led here by our general classification leader, who's wearing the blue jersey, Wout van Aert, winner of the opening 2 stages. You can see him there, that Red Bull helmet, the blue jersey for Wout van Aert has got the team very much on the front here. This route today peppered with these short, sharp little climbs that the riders are tackling, and they're really putting everyone under pressure here. So just under 3,000 meters of elevation throughout today's stage. So Wout van Aert, Michael, really has got the team to work here, and you're seeing those splits starting to form.
That's what they're trying to do. It's just these splits, getting people alongside of it. Casper Pedersen, he's up there in GC, isn't he? No, sorry, I'm thinking of a different Pedersen. But yeah, just forcing these splits on these sort of short, steep climbs.
Well, Barry just powering on here. You can see just how much pressure he is putting everyone on here. Everyone's just swinging around, scrabbling for positions here. It's just almost here about a group of 10 riders that they're whittling this down to.
Look at the damage. Yeah, this is what you were talking, Marty, a minute or two ago about the kind of the importance of positioning. And it's just, if you're at the front, you've just got that little bit of sliding space. You can give away 10 or 15 positions and still be in the front group. But this is now all over the road. Really doing some damage.
Are indeed. Absolutely fracturing the peloton is Ashlyn Barry. He's got everyone under pressure here. He's doing the big job for teammate Wout van Aert. There's your result of KOM. They just quickly flashed that up for us there. Didn't leave it up very long. But our leader and the gap, look how quickly the gap is now starting to tumble.
This guy's doing a great job because he's kind of still out there, 35 seconds gap. To be honest, you might argue that it's time to sit up, get back to the group, and try to tap this home so that he's ready to get back in an attack tomorrow. But he's done a terrific job today.
So Axel Scott Hansen and Nicholas Behrens.
Another crash.
Big crash on the corner,
front.
unfortunately. Has Barry gone down there?
Looked like it.
Again, it's been so slippery, hasn't it? So it just comes in there. And just, yeah, just hits that paint. Oh, that was a painful one. Oh, Wout van Aert's gone off as well.
Crossing.
Yeah.
I think Barry was the only rider that actually went down.
Yeah.
That's an absolute facsimile of the crash that Theodor Clementson from the Danish national team had at about 100 kilometers to go. They were on the front driving it, and he just slid wide. It's exactly the same way. Clearly the road's very slippery.
And it was just the way he hit that blue paint, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah. White, I think, stayed upright. So not a huge amount of damage done, assuming that Ashlyn Barry is more or less all right. The rest of the team did manage to avoid him, but not ideal when you've just got the race in the palm of your hand like that.
Yeah, they absolutely had disintegrated this peloton. It has meant that it's swelled in numbers again. So we'll see if this now helps Andreas Stockbro stay clear for just a little bit longer. We will enter the finishing circuit with 33.1 kilometers to go. The first passage of the line is with 29 kilometers to go. We just saw Wout van Aert there just talking into the radio. And you see that the pressure's now just gone out of the group.
Yeah, well, the Vismas who are still in there obviously aren't pushing too hard, and nobody really is taking over. But right, kind of no real panic from Wout. He let the Bardiani rider close the gap before just sliding up on the left-hand side of the road, getting to the front, and I think he's probably going to try and get his troops organised to go again.
Yeah, hopefully Ashlyn Barry is okay. Was quickly up and on his feet. We go back to Andreas Stockbro here, and the rain, it was pretty much forecast that there could be rain for most of the afternoon. And just seeing, you see and hear in this situation as well, you can just hear that squeal of the disc brakes as you're going into those corners.
Yeah, and his gap's just fed out a little bit, as he's been able to keep kind of a consistent pace while there's been a bit of a regrouping back here after that incident. But no, he's done a really strong job today.
That's indeed. So Unibet Rosa Rockets colours through towards the front, and that's the size of the group.
Yeah, you see the damage that Visma Lease Bike did in that last section before they had their crash. It would be a smaller group again if that hadn't happened.
So just heading on our circuit, and these descents are I don't think the camera angle does them justice in terms of just how snappy and steep they are.
Yeah, well, they're exactly like the climbs going down. You know, the finishing circuit has one descent that I think is 14% descent, which is pretty quick.
Yeah. So helicopter here, just as we look at Visma Lease Bike, 3 riders on the front, 1 rider in that group. the center of the group. Try and move back up towards the front here. Here come the Unibet Rose Rockets. So looking for a feed. Just looking for the Soigneur along the side. So Nicholas Larson. So just going past through the feed zone.
Lukas Kubiš, Slovakian national champions jersey, who's one of the sprinters that Visma Lease Bike would love to be getting rid of because he is sitting second overall, but he's still there up towards the front.
He's doing a good ride at the moment, isn't he? Just
He
sat
is.
there quite comfortably, isn't he? You can see him in that white, blue and red jersey.
He always looks really kind of comfortable through these kind of stages, and then somehow never seems to quite land it. I keep seeing him coming into the kind of a difficult final after a hard stage. I think surely he's the fastest man left in the group, but he seems to sit on the front in the wind a lot. You know, if the head-on shot from the motorbike, you very often see Lukas Kubiš. Partly, it's a very distinctive jersey. It's a great-looking jersey, so you do tend to notice him. But he does seem to spend a lot of his time sitting in the wind. But crucially, he is still here.
Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? And it's just that learning from it. It's fine learning that experience, and that's where, as a director sportif, you're always trying to kind of educate a rider or have those sort of debriefs after a race and after a stage, and just being like, okay, let's look at this today. How did we do? What can we do? Because you know, when a rider's got that talent, and it's just small little things that you can do that can change, you know, things considerably.
That's Matthias Malmberg once again, who's like the Energizer Bunny. He never sees an open piece of road without launching an attack down it.
Yeah, and that's it. It's we've said the SWAT Club, whenever they race, are always very, very active. And yeah, it's good to see them racing like this, and a day like this as well, where if you're just feeling good, it's like, why not? Because you're in that situation, aren't you? Especially as a Conti rider, and especially if you're not gonna outsprint Wout van Aert at the end of this race, that you may as well just give it a go.
Yeah, but bear in mind that of the SWAT Club, Matthias Malmberg's in 11th position. He's only 32 seconds down, which is, you know, a terrific position for one of the relatively smaller Conti outfits to be sitting in. And they've got Casper Anderson, who's 37 seconds down. So, you know, they're not just visible; they are finishing at the front of the stages each day.
And that's the thing, is it, what for the Conti teams as well, is you've got to do, isn't it? Is come in and know that you belong here against Visma Lease and against Alpecin Premier Tech and those sort of teams. It's having that belief and putting yourself in the shop window, because you never know that, you know, if it pays off, one of the World Tour teams might come knocking on your door.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of a buyer's market. I think as of tomorrow, we're going to start hearing about kind of transfer news. And as with last year, there are teams that are struggling for finance, struggling for sponsorship. So if the transfer negotiations start to become a bit more active from the beginning of August, the last day of July is a great day to be doing some of your best bike riding.
Definitely. So on to the next climb. Lukas Kubiš just moving up, just rolling quite a big gear, just in that white jersey. Just third from the left as you look at the front of the peloton there. It's just moving up here, and you sense now these climbs, and as we hit this finishing circuit, there's a lot of tired legs out there.
Yeah, and the finishing circuit is not going to be much of a relief to them, because it's got sort of 200 meters of climbing in whatever we said, out 9 kilometers. So, you know, just multiply that up. That's a tough little circuit.
Andreas Stockbro still out in the lead, 32 seconds he has got, and the way he's riding here in this one and just holding off this group, this is a strong ride from Stockbro.
It is. I mean, I think he probably has a bit of a debate about how hard he rides at this point, because he obviously very badly wants to get into the break tomorrow. But at this point, he is holding on to this advantage. If he's lucky, maybe another small group comes across to him. Is probably really what he's wishing for. But the way the race is breaking up, that could very well happen.
Very active now at the front of the peloton. So it's just a small group here, just starting to clip off the front. There's a very little stealthy kind of move here that's going clear.
Yeah, an awful lot of the gaps aren't really opening up through attacks. They're opening up through wheels being let go. On the other hand, that's an attack.
Here's Nicholas Larsen, it is, that's been really active in this one, the Danish rider. So 34th at 37 seconds for the Unibet Rose Rockets team. So 28 seconds to that little group that's just clipping off the front here. 36 to the peloton. So a couple of those Unibet Rose Rockets jerseys in here. Just being managed as well. 3 Visma Lease bike riders that have got into this little front part of the split. But Larsen looking like he means business now.
Yeah, he is winner, of course, of this race overall in 2019. So that always, that always encourages you. One of his teammates straight over the top.
Yeah, big move straight over the top. Yeah, Kopecky goes for Unibet Rose Rockets. So maybe that was the plan there, that Larsen was going to set this one up and the teammates were just going to counter straight over the top here. Just starting to take this group clear. So, oh, Wout van Aert. Looks like a bike change for Wout van Aert. So the GC leader in this race.
Bad timing. Bad timing. Not when you want to be doing that when things are kicking off at the front.
Yeah, Wout van Aert's going to have some work to do here to try and get back in. So badly timed mechanical there, but quick bike change for Wout van Aert.
I mean, he was slotting in behind the Rockets team car there, so he's not too far back in the cavalcade.
Just see those chasers now in the gap in the distance, just as we see the gaps between, get a glimpse between the trees. But Andreas Stockbro's been out there for quite a while. We'll see if we get a glimpse here from that group to where Wout van Aert is. But with van Aert having a bike change, it is, as we said, just kicking off. Alexander Kamp now going on the attack for Uno X Mobility.
Yeah, late attack a couple of days ago from Alexander Kamp, which it looked pretty good. They had a really, really strong snap. He then couldn't quite build on top of it, but if he gets 1 or 2 riders come across to him, he might make something of this.
So they're not making it easy for Wout van Aert here. We'll see if they put give us a clock on to where the GC leader is. Our leader, Andreas Stockbro, might get some company quite soon. And here is Wout van Aert. He's through the convoy. He's into that corner, so he's not a million miles away now. He is onto the back of the front group, because that's Lionel Tamino in front of him, who I saw in the front group not too long ago. Didn't bring his computer with him, so he's not going to know where he is. So yeah, just clearly didn't have time to grab his head unit there.
Well, he was just, I imagine that was a real scramble, because they're aware that things are happening at the front of this group. So as fast as could humanly be managed, but he's safely onto the back. Probably take a beat here. Oh, was it team car? May just be looking for, may just literally be looking for a head unit.
Yeah, might swap that one back, and that is, again, it shows experience. Get back on the group, and then start thinking about what else you kind of need.
Yeah, these guys have got a bit of a gap here, because you can't see the group behind. They've got, according to that, 13 seconds, which they pulled out quite quickly. It's Lindsey van Wilder from the Alpecin Premier. No, sorry, it's not at all. It's Marcus Sander Hansen sitting on the back. It's not the first time I've got the BHS jersey and the Alpecin jersey confused.
So that's, we've got William Bloom-Levy as well in there. Wout van Aert just getting his head unit back from the team car and just making sure he takes this opportunity as well. It's a fresh pair of glasses, or gets the glasses cleaned, and just rides back on here. So just checking the pockets for a bit of a feed, 48.3 kilometers to go. And Wout will now be hoping that he's now got that puncture out the way.
Yeah, that's the way it works, Marty. Yeah, you have to get one every 4 stages. So yeah, you just get it out of the way early. Yeah, that's yeah, for sure.
That's it. It's ticked off now. You'll be like, no, no more now. Stockbro is going to get some company very shortly.
This could work out well for Anders Stockbro, depending if he can clip himself into this group that's coming by, because they've already pulled out 22, 23 seconds. And of course, Visma back on the front here, but we see Wout van Aert still tapping along at the back. He's not in a great hurry to get to the front of the group.
That shows his confidence, though, as well, doesn't it?
It does,
that
yeah.
He's here and he's on good form.
Yeah, no, you can sort of tell when you see riders riding like that. There's no kind of panic. They just sort of feel it's all right. You know, if anything happens, I've got the legs to fix it.
So our chasers now link up, giving us 4 at the front. So 4 leaders. Andreas Stockbro will just he'll want a minute here, Michael, just to kind of recover.
Yeah, no, he's been on his own for, blimey, 20, 30 kilometers now. So he can sit on the, and they'll be perfectly happy to let him sit on the back for a couple of turns to catch his breath. But they'll want to see him working after that.
We'll just take that minute, get a feed, try and recover.
26 seconds. They can still see them, obviously. It looks like Visma Lisa Bike still on the front, back in the group. Oh, the man beside the road waving a cardboard box. Oh, I understand.
Want some bottles. We'll see if any riders oblige them. So just looking there. So Jensen Plowright in that green jersey, keeping that warm for Wout van Aert. Wout van Aert leading in the points classification, 30 points to Jensen Plowright's 16. And Van Aert back in there. And his team back on the front. You can see the riders. It's been a really gnarly day weather-wise for them today. Just 26 seconds is the gap. 46.2 kilometers to go. We will hit our finishing circuit with 33.1 kilometers remaining. So one intermediate sprint to come along the route today as well. So we've got one intermediate sprint. That comes with 29 kilometers to go in Weiler with 3 laps to go. Do you feel that anyone might fancy the bonus seconds, or for Wout van Aert, happy to potentially let this this little group go through that intermediate sprint point for those seconds? But Capecchi's at 37 seconds.
Well, they're all at 37 seconds.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think there'd be much urgency about it if they were back to you know, a few seconds, a relatively small gap. At that point, they might sort of try to squeeze it on just to see if they can go for the bonus seconds. But I don't think it'll be a priority, because 3 seconds on the intermediate is even the 10 seconds on the line. So it's not the first thing they'll be worrying about. A lot of Intermarché up to the front. Toon Aert, who might be an interesting option for today. He's got sort of decent results. He was 3rd across the line yesterday. We almost didn't mention him because we were kind of trying to figure out who between Jensen Plowright and Wout van Aert won the stage. But Toon Aert sort of had slid through into a very tidy 3rd place, and can cope with the kind of the lumpy stuff as well. So I imagine that's what a lot of Intermarché are thinking of.
Yeah, I mean, Toon Aert, since he started to race with the Lotto Intermarché team, you know, another cyclocross rider that is starting to, you know, the way that this sort of route here on a Tour of Denmark kind of parkour does suit that sort of punchy cross rider.
Yeah, well, Wout van Aert, classic example.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Toon Aert was talking earlier in the year about prioritising road and maybe putting sort of cyclocross on the back burner. So
Big mistake.
If he's planning to go through with that, he'll have his Belgian passport revoked. But,
No, exactly. It's one of those things that I bore everyone to tears with it, but it is the reason why the cross riders, and some cross riders do say, oh, I'm going to prioritise the road, but there's a reason why Mathieu van der Poel comes back to cyclocross every winter, and Wout van Aert tries to. I mean, Wout had in the end in the snow, broke his ankle, but there's a reason why cross riders, because of the physiology and the sort of rider that it makes you. When you're a cross rider, it is, reduce it slightly, but don't walk away from it entirely. And I think that would be a mistake for Toon Aert if he did that. And as you said, he would never be allowed back into Flanders if he does that.
No, absolutely not. I mean, I think you're right. I think particularly the kind of the short length of cross races and the intensity. I think it's the balance to me as someone who has coached road riders is how you balance that intensity over the winter and then get into the road season. That's not always completely straightforward.
So stage 3 of Tour of Denmark, 23 seconds, 43.4 kilometers to go. And we're just discussing the benefits of cyclocross to riders. And if you watch the finish of the Tour de France, and I mean, when you look at Mathieu van der Poel and the way he won on the Champs-Élysées and the move and the power that he has as a rider, and a lot of that has been honed within cyclocross as well, that explosiveness that he has.
Well, one of the things you get from cyclocross is you kind of have a different kind of a torque because of the speeds in cyclocross and the hills, the little rises and so on. You learn, it encourages you to pedal almost slightly differently in terms of the way you torque the chain set. And for things like accelerations on steep hills, on races even like this one, that's a really valuable skill. Even more so, I think, is riding cyclocross as a junior. I think cyclocross is absolutely what junior bike riders should be doing, because it's such a tremendous place to learn a lot of skills and to improve your physiology in a way that is of enormous use when you come to race on the road.
And it's the benefits of it as well, bike handling, skills, it's a great, and you go to most countries now as well, the cyclocross scene, it's a weekend, families, everyone from the youngsters up through the parents all race as well. It's such a great scene.
Yeah, the only complaint I've heard about it from one or two parents racing and with kids racing in the cyclocross scene is the UK. There's a lot of rounds and a lot of competitions and potentially a lot of travel, and it can end up getting expensive. But I'd say any regular racing, you're going to run into that, and I think cyclocross, in terms of the bikes and things like that, is still easier to fund than a road campaign. But you're right.
But also for youngsters as well, coming through. And I know there's a lot of, you need 2 bikes and you need this and that. But, cross rider, cross bikes and the light, you can race them during the road. You just put some road tyres on and ride them in your crits and that kind of thing as well. If you don't have, in terms of if you're looking at expense, I mean, the cross bike, the gravel bike, it's become like the Swiss Army knife of bikes now, so I think mix and match. I
think that's true, but I think a lot of parents will feel under pressure to provide multiple specialized SL8s for kids to race on. I mean, I'm always genuinely amazed at the quality of kit that you see at junior racing.
I remember when my daughter was racing, and I remember her sitting on the start line of a crit one day, and she was only 10 or 11. And she was sat on the start line on one of my old cross bikes that we'd made, an old Ridley aluminium cross bike that we'd made up for her. And the kid next to her was on a specialised bench with a skin suit, deep carbon wheels and an aero helmet. And I think she came out of looked and was like, "Can I ride your carbon wheels?" And I was like, "No."
Yeah. Get a job, buy your own wheels.
Jensen, yeah. Jensen Plowright just back at the tee guide. You kind of feel for him after yesterday, don't you, in terms of, you know...
Yeah, he seems to have taken it in pretty good heart. That would have been his third win and the biggest win of his career at the age of 26. But he sort of said it was, when he thought he'd beaten Wout van Aert, he said it was an amazing thing to beat Wout van Aert. And when he discovered he hadn't, said, well, there's no shame in being beaten by Wout van Aert. So
he did come through like
classy.
a charging wildebeest, though, did he, as well? And so he's got to take something from that. The way he sort of threaded the needle through the group, and also,
oh yeah,
as he said, he almost beat Wout van Aert in a sprint, which is, you know, you've got to be proud of that.
I mean, he kind of came from way back, straight through the middle. He just saw where the gap was opening and kicked straight into it with a real confidence of a sprinter. Even if he didn't win it, you would look at that and say, well, that was, you know, whatever the result was, that was a great finish. And he'll certainly take something from that, I'd have thought.
We'll go back up to our four-rider leading group. So Andreas Stoppero in the black with the black and white stripes. Been out there for a long time today. Matthias Capecci here from the Unibet Rose Rockets. You've got William.
I'm not sure that Anders Stoppero has actually been through for a turn yet, so he's getting a little bit of sympathy for having been out on his own all day. No, not all day, but a lot of the day.
Yeah. It's that point, isn't it, where you, every time everyone looks back, you just pull a whimper and look like you're struggling.
He does look like sort of, he doesn't look happy.
I think 4+ hours in the rain to anyone will do something to dent your sense of humour.
There's lots of Danish riders who will think nothing of that.
Definitely, these are the days where you earn your tough stripes, isn't it? On a day like this. Wout van Aert's got the troops back on the front.
Yeah, I feel this group is a little bit bigger than it was 10 kilometres ago. I think there have been a few people who have got themselves back through the cars and onto the back of it. But very much the... I'm never quite sure if I want to think of them as the killer bees or the worker bees, but the bees are on the front, whatever.
And we're not far away. We're around 6 kilometres from our final circuit of the day. We enter with about 33 kilometres to go.
We certainly do, and I mean, I think that's probably when this is going to catch fire. It's usually the way of it when you get onto the final circuits, and it's quite a short, punchy circuit, but 3 full laps and a little bit, so 33 kilometres. So there's quite a lot of racing left when we come onto the circuit.
Yeah, because we've got another little loop within the loop.
Well, we sort of do. We kind of come, there's a hairpin, and the race kind of goes back on itself. It goes up one climb, down, has a hairpin, and then goes back up and round. That's a really bad description. It's such a complicated course. There's absolutely no mission of trying to explain it in words. You do need diagrams. But yeah, at the northern end, we have what looks like an extra loop on the top that just then comes back south towards the finish and up the final climb. Final climb is 600 meters at 8%, but at steepest it's 16%. It's like a lot of the climbs we've seen today where their overall average doesn't sound horrendous, but really kicks up in the middle, and that's the last 600 meters today into the finish. And assuming, we may well end up with another solo attack or 1 or 2 riders away, but that climb is really going to make a difference, I think.
That's a great mural, that one.
Don't recognise the rider, do you?
It's an impressive.
I feel like I should.
Yeah, it's an impressive one, that one. Nicely done. So the team of Wout van Aert on the fronts, looking to try and set this one up for their team leader. Already 2 stage wins in this race so far. Looking for another one today. Noah Moller Anderson there for the Danish national team. And as you said, Michael, they've really put together a strong national team for this race.
Yeah, they have, and I think Anders Folliger would be interested today. We actually finished in his hometown yesterday. He was 7th or 8th in the end yesterday, but it's depending a little bit how the race unfolds around that circuit. He's the kind of rider who might well be able to get to the finish, and if he does, he's probably going to have quite a good kick relative to the kind of riders that he's going to be surrounded by. The Danish squad, they really pushed it on. At about 100 kilometers to go, they very much tried to break things up, and they crashed, which was a shame. But they're certainly in the game. It's not like the typical national squad that's composed of development squad riders. We've got World Tour riders and really good development squad riders in that team. So strong outfit.
Yeah, Noah Moller Anderson riding for the Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe rookies. There's some little open sections as well, and you can see the Visma Lease Bike team really driving this one on across the open fields. Just looking to try and thin this down a little bit if they can.
Unibet Rosa Rockets. Remember, they're looking after Lucas Kubish, who you have to remind yourself that that's in a way that's who he's riding for, because he's in the national champions jersey. And they're sitting second wheel. And UnoX Mobility, you always have kind of tremendous system. You always see UnoX riding as a group in the peloton. They're very they're very disciplined at that. But they've got Henrik Pedersen, who's third in GC, and also Rasmus Tiller, who would be potentially a rider for the final today, depending a bit what his form is. Hasn't really shown in this race so far, so I'm kind of guessing, but he could be a rider for the finish for the final stages today, the final kilometres today.
It did. So we're heading towards the intermediate sprint points. Finish line with 3 laps to go. So 6.1 kilometres into that intermediate sprint point in Weiler. So that will give us an opportunity as well to get a glimpse of that finish. It'll also be interesting to see how the likes of Wout van Aert decide to sort of handle this one, whether he's going to go on the attack or he's just looking to try and wear this group down. And a bit of a discussion here just going on.
A bit of both having a chat with Menno Huysing, just what the plan is. They played it really well on stage one. Christophe Laporte went with a small group, and then Wout van Aert jumped across to that with capacity to spare. So, and I think he's in the kind of form at the minute that gives him a lot of options. I think he can win this a lot of different ways, but exactly what their plan is, I don't know. I suspect the plan will be to throw in kind of a solo attack with a couple of laps to go, really try to soften this race up in the first lap and a half, and maybe attack 15-16 kilometers. There's a climb at around about there that would be perhaps a springboard.
Yeah, here come the green jerseys. So we're just seeing Pedersen in that white jersey almost being brought up towards the front now by his team in green.
Yeah, we're nearly onto the circuit, and about a kilometre and a half after we enter the circuit, so not terribly distant future, we do have a climb. So the climbing starts almost as soon as we hit the circuit.
So Henrik Pedersen just getting brought up by the UnoX Mobility team, just on the outside of the group there. So sits third on general classification, 16 seconds down on Wout van Aert, but leading in the Best Young Riders classification. So leading that youth competition.
These guys are doing a good job out here, Martin.
Yeah, I mean, they're holding a really good advantage. I mean, Andres Stockbro's been out there for most of the day. I mean, he's probably in a world of pain and suffering on the back of this group, but he's still here.
He's still here, and they're holding on to that advantage. And Visma Lease Bike aren't absolutely pegging it. back in the group. They're trying to keep control for the minute, but they're not riding absolutely flat out yet. It will be interesting to see what happens in the next 4 or 5 kilometres as we get onto the circuit, and the end game starts to unfold. We're now actually on to the circuit. I think we've passed the junction that they will be kind of coming round. We're going around the circuit in a clockwise direction today.
Yeah, it's unusual that, isn't it, as well, in itself?
Yeah, a little bit. Same finishing circuit as last year. If anybody remembers seeing Mads Pedersen winning solo last year on stage 4, that was the same circuit, the same finish line as we got today. And you can see kind of the pace on now in this group.
Yeah, we're going in towards that intermediate sprint at 3.1 kilometres. There's going to be a tall order to pull back 44 seconds in that time. You can sense, you feel that they're looking to try and light this one up now as we get in towards our finishing circuit. So that first passage at 33.1 to go. And then that's... so we enter this, so our first passage is on that sprint point at 29 kilometres to go. Rather, my apologies. But our breakaway group, Andreas Stockborough, Matthias Capecchi, William Blumel-Levy and Marcus Sander Hansen. Look at the pressure, though, Michael, from the helicopter shot here, with multiple teams just fighting for a patch of road here.
Yeah, and it's about, at this point, sort of positioning just onto the circuit and the expectation. They expect, as we expect the race to really kind of kick off into the last 30 kilometres onto the circuit, that's what the teams expect, which is why there's this kind of urgency to make sure that you are in the right place and that you've got your key riders positioned.
Yeah, because we've got quite a tight sort of right-hander coming up on this circuit as well, as we start to loop around into the finishing climb.
Yeah, there are a few tight corners in this. I mean, a lot of relatively wide roads in this circuit, but we kind of head out of town through the woods. So there are some quite narrow roads there too. The main climb, the main climb to the finish is very sharp right-hander, as you say, at the bottom of that. And positioning for that turn is going to matter. You'll know it when you see it, because it's considerably more than 90 degrees and kicks straight into the bottom of the climb.
Well, and it's the circuit in this finishing circuit as well, these short, sharp little climbs as well. It's the way, it's been the pattern of the day. Visma Lease bike, though, just putting the pressure on here on the front, keeping that pressure high. Looks like Menno Housing. So maybe that's what Wout van Aert was talking to him about.
I think every chance. Lucas Kubish knows what wheel he wants to be on, sitting behind Wout van Aert.
So Theodore Luca just there, got a rear wheel puncture. So full hot dog turn here that they've got on this part of the circuit.
Yeah, and we go down here another kilometre or so, and then we've got that really sharp right up to the climb, which is already what these guys are thinking about.
And you see the riders behind Pedersen just moving up here towards Wout van Aert, the white jersey of the best young rider, just making sure that he keeps himself up there with our blue leaders jersey. So this is that turn. We just saw the breakaway take. 30 seconds is the gap. So it gives them an opportunity as well on this sort of turn to see where everyone is. It just gives you an idea as well, just to the size of the group.
And just look at how that sharp turn spreads the group out. This is the climb that is going up to the finish, as you can see. It's nothing to be trifled with. It's maximum 16%, so proper leg snapper.
Definitely is. Good crowds out in force. Hardy bunch, the Danes, and this climb, but it does give us a glimpse of what this finish could be like. But you sense here that Wout van Aert might try and use this as the first opportunity to try and get clear here.
Yeah, and you can see how that group is spread out. Is he going to try to go clear here, or is this just this? They've got to do this climb 3 times. So is this a softener? Oof, ouch.
It's one of those days. Couldn't quite see the number of our Danish national team rider that had gone down there. Hope he's okay.
That's Anders
Foldager. Oh, that's a shame.
That's a real shame for him because the team have been working for him today, and he looks in a little bit of discomfort. And that's another. We've seen so many of these crashes today where riders have just slid out on wet corners. That's so unlucky for him.
So the helicopter shot here, and you can see these twists and turns that we've got as well on the climbs. We just snake through here up towards the finish after the climb. As we go back to the group, Lucas Kubic, Pedersen alongside him. Wout van Aert not far from the front here, so it looks like this was the sort of plan, was to just try and soften things up here.
Yeah, I think so. They'll keep the gas on. Gap down to 18 seconds already, so you can see just how hard the group hit that climb.
Capecchi wants the bonus seconds, so sprinting clear. So designs overall on GC clearly takes the bonus seconds there.
Yeah, so 37 seconds is a big group in 37 seconds. So if you can snatch yourself a few bonus seconds, you can make an entirely disproportionate jump up the GC.
Yeah, you could take massive jumps with just a few seconds in this one. So Wout van Aert's team have softened this one up, and you can see the difference that climb has made in terms of who we've got left here. But a sizable group, they're still just within a striking distance.
Still a decent sized group, and they've kind of got a short descent, and then it kicks up again. So it is like a two-stage hill, and the finish is not at the very top, if you like. The next section is easier, but it's such a tough finishing circuit that it's going to be very hard to close significant gaps on it if the riders in the front are attacking it.
So we've got 3 laps to go, and it's already been a super tough day here in the Tour of Denmark. The rain is still falling as we go back to the head of the race. There's the result of the sprint. So Marcus Sander, Hansen, William Bloom, Levy, and Andres Stoppro. That's who they're saying is the order across the line. So Jensen Plowright, 10th place in GC at 31 seconds. This was the plan, though, as well, Michael, as you've said throughout the day, was to try and get rid of some of the other sprinters.
Absolutely, yeah. One or two notable, I mean, the most notable name, we've mentioned him a few times, and he's very easy to spot because of the jersey, but Lucas Kubic is still sitting in there on 4th wheel, and has looked terrific all day. And he, of course, is sitting second in GC at 14 seconds. So he's a bit of a threat because there are enough time bonuses between now and the finish that he could potentially be a threat to Wout van Aert.
It's gonna
the finish of the race, not the finish today, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at that finish now that we've been through it, the severity of the climb, but also just how technical it is on the run up towards the line. Even if it comes down to a small group sprint up there, as it's given how slippery it's been so far today, it's a really complex little finish.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a kind of a sort of a right and a left dog leg, not that far before the finishing line. Really only a few 150 meters or something. And how you position yourself going into that for a small group sprint, if it came down to a sprint of 5, 6 riders, that's going to start to matter. They'll have seen it 3 times, which does help. And a lot of these riders have seen it multiple times last year and the year before as well. So they're familiar with it, but still.
Yeah, it could be a tough one to manage. There you go, 3 laps to go. So this group coming through just around 3 minutes down on our leaders. We go back to the front. The sun almost coming out here, Michael. It was, you did say it was forecast this afternoon.
Yeah, it was supposed to be getting better as the day goes on, but you see this is sort of an unclassified climb. Well, they're all unclassified climbs in the finishing circuit. We're mainly focused on that finishing hill that goes to the finish that we've just seen. But this is, that this whole circuit is full of little kickers like this. Anders Folliger rather disconsolately crossing the line with his earpiece out and his shorts ripped, so he has not had the day he wanted.
Not at all. So Group 2, the gap down 15 seconds. Toon Aerts that you can see there in the red of Lotto Intermarché. So it was a good finish yesterday for Toon Aerts. the punchy nature of this circuit should suit the Belgian rider. Nicholas Behrens just fighting to stay with the group here. It's just trying to find a little bit of something as a domestique, isn't it? That you could, even if it's another kilometre, that you can find in the legs.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I couldn't see quite where he was. I'm assuming he's off the back of the first group. Oh, that's him there, is it? So yeah, that's where he is. Tibor Del Grosso just sitting at the back there, we haven't mentioned for a while. He finished second on this stage last year, the stage into this finishing circuit, so he's also pretty familiar with it. Sitting at the back and actually looking pretty relaxed there.
I was just about to, he's the king of cool. Tibor Del Grosso, he's that sort of rider, isn't he? That he basically is just, he's a bit of a cool cat, is Tibor Del Grosso, and he will just look like he's chilling out on the back when he's at, you know, and then go out and win something.
Yeah, he got caught out in stage one. He lost 3 or 4 minutes caught behind the big crash in stage one, and then never got himself back on the crosswind. So it can turn around and bite you, but he was looking pretty comfortable at the back of the group there, letting Visma Lease Bike do some of their swanky bike riding up at the front, and just chilling at the back. 25 kilometers to go, looking pretty relaxed about it.
Yes, indeed. So this circuit, despite how technical, how tough it is, this circuit at just a touch under 10 kilometers, given the speed that we're going at here, this circuit's going to go past quite quickly.
Yeah, I will do. I mean, I'm almost surprised we've still got 25 kilometers to go, because we're going to sort of get to the finishing circuit. We're nearly there, and actually we've got half an hour odd of racing probably left to go here. But we are very much into the end game on this circuit.
Alice Wood always says, in commentary as well, that, she found as riders as well as sometimes when you get into a finish that's got multiple circuits, even if it's 20, 30, 40 kilometers from the finish, it always seems closer than it is. Hence why it always seems to just kick off on the finishing circuit.
Psychologically, I can see exactly that. I mean, we see this time and time again, and you never go far wrong if you sort of talk about the race starting when you get to the finishing circuit. And I think Alice is absolutely right about that.
Yeah, you see 3 laps to go, and you think, sorry, 3 laps to go. Let's go for it.
Well, and of course, if it's a one-day race, you're nice and near the bus, so it all goes wrong. You're never too far from the shower.
Yes, exactly. Oh, losing the bottle, unfortunately, and that's the other danger as well on a sort of wet day like this as well, isn't there? A little bump, the bidon is wet, and it just slips out your hand.
And it can be a kind of day where it's harder just to remember to keep drinking. It can be hard to get at the pockets if you're wearing a rain cape. And it's not what you eat now that affects how much energy you've got for the next half an hour. It's what you ate an hour ago or 2 hours ago. And if you're wearing a rain cape and just trying to get gels in and out of your pockets, you might quite often see riders with the rain cape kind of rucked up above the pockets on their jersey underneath, trying to make sure that the gels and the food keeps coming in.
So we've got our second, but we're around just a touch inside 4 kilometers to go into our next passage of the line. So we've got that little climb to come.
Looks like a Tour of Flanders, doesn't it?
It does. It's very, very, the roads, how narrow they are, how twisty, up and down all day long, and just over 200 kilometers as well. You can see why it is suiting those Flandrian classic kind of riders here.
Yeah. No, we've just completed our first full circuit, so that's where we joined the circuit 10 Ks ago. So at this point, everybody knows exactly what's coming next. And the next stop really is that steep hill up to the finish. And maybe this is the lap that Visma Lease Bike are going to really try to leverage that.
Kopecky just trying to get everybody working. The group behind the peloton have got them in their sights. 22.8 kilometers to go. So when we head round to the line this time, we will have 2 laps to go. Will this be the climb that Wout van Aert starts to light this one up? He's got 2 riders left now, with Christophe Laporte sort of sat on his wheel. So you sort of feel that there's kind of that minesweeper role that he's taking in there. But look at the size of the group here, Michael, that we've got left. It's been a really, really attritional stage.
It's had a haircut, hasn't it? I mean, the other possibility here is Christophe Laporte himself. He could go. And then maybe White can get a chance to bridge across, because they did that 2 days ago and it worked very well. And if they wanted to run it again today, it would probably work a second time.
They'll feel confident, though, the group. William Bloom-Levy, Matthias Capecchi, Marcus Sander Hansen, and Andreas Stockbro, who definitely going after the combativity award today, Andreas Stockbro.
Yeah, oh yes, absolutely. They should be giving him bonus points for it. Getting in, not quite at the bottom of the climb yet. We're going to hit the bottom of the climb at something in the region of 20 kilometers to go. So they've got a couple of minutes to get there.
As our other groups just go through the line here.
They're going to get lapped.
They're not far away, are they?
No, they're going to get lapped because the groups, the peloton's only a couple of minutes behind, about 2.5 minutes behind them now, and 21 kilometers to go. So they're going to get caught.
So in that situation, they'll then, I imagine, take them out, calculate their
they'll
time?
finish the distance.
They'll finish the distance.
They have to finish the distance, so they'll just have to get out of the way, and they can't hop onto the group in front. But everybody has to finish the full distance of the race. So they'll just get lapped and have to get out of the way and watch this group sailing past.
Yeah, and sometimes in that situation, sometimes I've seen it in some stage races where they have had to do that because of, they've just had to calculate it because of road closures and all that kind of thing. Hence why, yeah. But as you said, you have to finish every day to start the next day. But they're just rolling through that group. The peloton behind here with Wout van Aert and the teammates on the fronts. So Menno Halsing and Christophe Laporte. There's a lot of discussion going on in this one.
Yeah, the break need to start saying their goodbyes and their see you tomorrows.
So this
that
is 12 seconds.
12 seconds is only going to go one way. They're going to get round that corner, and if they didn't know the group was, they know now.
So Laporte and teammates just here, just moving up to help Wout van Aert. The 3 yellow jerseys with the blue jersey of the overall leader move into position. And look at the acceleration out of that corner as we go back up to our leaders, and Andreas Stockbro just starting to, you can see there, just on the back. We're heading towards the finish line where we will see 2 laps to go this time, and our breakaway group, the man on the back, Andreas Stockbro of Colloquick, has been out there for most of the stage. Matthias Capecchi from the Unibet Rose Rockets, William Bloom-Levy from Uno X, and Marcus Sander Hansen is our other rider in the breakaway group from the BHS PL Beton Bornholm team. This is this tight little turn, and then the road will kick up. It has been a really tough day for the riders on stage 3 here of the Tour of Denmark. This steep little climb that we've got up towards the finish. We've just seen there Michael Capecchi just looking back, but Christophe Laporte now goes with Wout van Aert right on the wheel.
And Lucas Kubisch still tucked in there, but yeah, they're using Christophe Laporte in that role again today. As you say, Wout van Aert right behind him, and already they're creating daylight down in the group, and they were about to hoover up the break.
Just trying to find their way through the riders as they get dropped from the breakaway. So just finding their way through the traffic there in front of them. Just Capecchi just digging in on the climb. Laporte and Van Aert go down the right here through this little chicane that we've got. And it's the 2 Visma Lease bike riders on the front. But look at the damage that they've done.
Yeah, look at the damage. Lucas Kubisch, who remember is in 2nd place overall, so he's not just a threat for the stage, he is a threat overall. He's still sitting there, but they've now got this down to, what's this, 7 riders, 8 riders?
Yeah,
7.
white jersey there. Pedersen is also there, but Wout van Aert just moves through to the front. Job done there for Christophe Laporte. Just looks back over the shoulder, down through the group. But Kubic doing a great ride. Kopecky just trying to stay on the back of the group there.
These guys are probably within range to maybe try to get back on. We don't have a really kind of a really good descent for trying to get back on. We kind of go over the top and we go down and then we go up again and across the plateau. So it's not ideal if you're off the back to maybe try to get on the descent, but they're probably still within range. So that group is probably going to swell a little bit, but you can just see the damage that is being done every hill we hit on this finishing circuit.
Indeed, so we will come round the next time and see 1 lap to go. The teammates have done an incredible job today for Wout van Aert, but in this group, just powering back through to the front, the Unibet Rose Rockets. They feel that they've got an opportunity today as Lucas Kubic just pedals through. So 3 riders represented in this group. Unibet Rose Rockets.
Yeah, it's about 9 riders, so it's 1 or 2 riders I think have managed to leverage themselves onto the back of this group, but it's a very exclusive bunch now at the front of the race.
Is indeed. So here's the next group on the road.
So in Teutenberg sitting at the back there, so he's not going to be contesting it today.
No, and this is, as you said, this is the job that they wanted to do, was just to try and distance some of those sprint riders on today. They haven't managed to get rid of Kubic, but to just try and take, as we said, give Wout van Aert an opportunity here to just sort of balance out the stage finishes to come and the bonus seconds that are on offer.
Yeah, no, precisely. You're absolutely right, Marty. That's the end today, and we've got a bit of a gap here.
Yeah,
which
Wout van Aert.
Wout van Aert's not on the right side of. Christophe Laporte is up there, and Kubic is up there. I don't imagine what. Couldn't say I don't imagine it too much trouble closing it. He may not want to close Christophe Laporte, or he may not want to do it yet. Crucially.
Yeah, maybe he's going to let.
Maybe he's happy to let this gap just open up, because he's probably got the opportunity to get across to it and maybe not take anybody with him.
Yeah, William Bloom Levy is also in there. So this next group that are on the road.
Søren Kragh Andersen, number 1, Little Trek on the left-hand side. Almost the first time we've seen him today, but Little Trek have been doing quite a lot of work for him as the stages progress. So he's closing down again.
Yeah, Pierre-Andre Cote is in there as well, in that NSN jersey. Canadian rider, former national road champion. And it looks like Riley Sheehan as well as the rider wearing 33 from NSN that's also got himself in there. Yeah,
he's kind of a sort of a stage that should suit him. It's a good news, a name we haven't mentioned, but actually you're absolutely right, Marty. That's who it is. And you wouldn't put it entirely past him.
No, won the Circuit of Wallonie earlier on in the season, did the NSN rider. So
yeah, Andre Cote looking over his shoulder just to see where he is, I think. And Lucas Kubic not leaving it to the sprint. He's going after Wout, that's what it is.
So Wout van Aert. And this is kind of this is the sort of territory that Wout van Aert has to use. It's looking for a kind of innocuous little rise ahead of a corner to just try and, because everyone will be expecting him to go on the big climb, and this is exactly the right tactic.
That's exactly what he's done. I mean, he knows the circuit, the team know the circuit, and they've just picked an opportunity when they can go and someone's just not quite expecting it. When the kind of that previous attack had been caught, that had Christophe Laporte in it, and maybe that was a deliberate tactic just to kind of let that go, let one of the other teams chase it down and then go. He's still got Lucas Kubic with him, crucially, though.
Yeah, Kubic is, as you said, he's just he goes after everything as well, but he's looking super strong in this one today.
Yeah, Lucas Kubich burns matches like he's got a really big box of them. But on the other hand, in terms of trying to stay in touch with the GC, he has to follow Wout van Aert at this point, and I very much doubt he's going to. I doubt he'll come through and do a turn. To be honest, I might be wrong. He might, because he's the kind of rider who just would maybe feel that they should do. But he has to go with him, and they've already pulled out a decent-sized gap here, Marty.
This is a good move. Wout van Aert, our overall leader, Lucas Kubich, is the rider that is going with him. So our general classification rider, our leader in the blue jersey, going on the attack. Wout van Aert here in the Post-Nord Tour of Denmark, stage 3, going into the day with a 14-second advantage over the man in the white jersey that is with him. And you just see in the background, Michael, it's the Uno X Mobility green jerseys that are trying to drag this one back.
Yeah, this is a crucial few kilometers because the elastic hasn't snapped here. They can still see them. It's only 10, 11 seconds. But if they don't get that, start getting that gap coming down pretty soon, it's going to go away from them. I think they're going to catch them, though. I'm just not convinced that Wout van Aert and Lucas Kubich have the firepower up here. And there's a little bit of a gap between Wout van Aert and Lucas Kubich. I was half wondering if Wout van Aert was going to attack again and try to go solo. He was just using that as a bit of rushing room. But no, I think they're giving it everything they've got here.
They are. Look at that, as we said, the echoes of Flanders today, the way they've crisscrossed the fields here in Denmark. But that chasing group, Søren Kragh Andersen is there from Lidl Trek, Pierre-André Cote and Riley Sheehan from NSN, Christophe Laporte still in there for Visma Lease Bike, Alexander Kamp and William Bloom-Levy from Uno X Mobility with Henrik Pedersen, the white jersey. Frederic Munoz is in there, Matthias and Thomas Capecci and Andreas Stoppero. Van Aert and Kubich here, so the Unibet Rose Rockets rider is going on the offensive here with Wout van Aert.
If the split on the screen is to be believed, that gap is coming down. I'm not sure it's as tight as 7 seconds, if I'm honest. Through the woods, it's hard to see.
66 kilometers an hour here in the wet. So again, this is kind of where you would favour the little duo at the front here on a descent like this. This is where as well, in and out of these corners, it's not a huge gap. They are managing it well, that chasing group, but it's the way Wout van Aert just jumps out of these corners as well. That's what makes it difficult to come back.
I think is there another attacks coming from that group behind. That's Christophe Laporte coming across there, and he's chasing one of the Uno X riders. Can't see who that is yet.
So yeah, just trying to come
it's
across.
Alexander Kamp again, who attacked late on day one with Christophe Laporte coming across with him. So, you know, that improves the odds no end, because obviously at this point, if they get across Christophe Laporte and Wout van Aert as teammates, they can work together, and they've just got a little bit more firepower.
That's a strong group. So Christophe Laporte, Alexander Kamp make contact here, and Christophe Laporte will try and come through to front. But the gap is closing to that group. Is that Pedersen trying to come across? See if it's the white jersey that's trying to get out of that group and get on. Unibet Rose Rockets won't be chasing. It is the white jersey of the best young rider, Pedersen, that's trying to come across. Pierre-André Cote, wearing 31 there, is also trying to get across. Naturally, the way that group at the front is swelling in these chases, it might just naturally come back together here.
I think it could do. I mean, I think Pierre-André Cote is really working for Riley Sheehan, but he's got a gap just about. Yeah, he does. But then the Rose Rock is just behind that, and this looks to me like it could all come back together again. I hesitate slightly because it really looked quite tight from the head-on telephoto lens shot. It looks a bit more fresh air from the helicopter, but we are going to end up with a bigger group at the front than I imagine Wout van Aert wanted.
Yes, Pedersen and Cote get on. There is the makeup of a group. So Pierre-André Cote, Wout van Aert, Christophe Laporte, Alexander Kamp. We've got Frederic Pedersen in there and Lucas Kubich. That is the makeup of the group. Wout van Aert just takes a glance back over the shoulder. The Unibet Rose Rockets team, they're not going to do any chasing though out of that chasing group with Kubich up here.
No, they shouldn't do. And of course, Uno X now are well represented up here, so they're not going to chase in the group. So I wonder if that group that we've now got at the front, if that group of 4 is the group that's going to the finish. It's still not a done deal, though. It's not a group of 4, is it? It's a little bit bigger than that now.
Christophe Laporte, though, ups the pressure on the front here as we get back into the twists and turns of the climbs in towards the finish.
Yeah, if Christophe Laporte is going to commit at this point, that makes life a lot harder for this small group behind. You say it's who's chasing in that group behind? I suppose NSN are the obvious team that really ought to be. No, they're not, of course, because they've got Pierre de Cote made of the cross. So
looks like Soren Krauh Andersen is the rider that is doing a bit of chasing to try and get across here from.
Yeah, he's got to be on. He's not going to get a lot of help. Is his problem.
Wout van Aert comes through to the front. Andersen, Krauh Andersen, just almost, you can see here, just trying to claw that group back, but the gap is holding and stretching. It sort of, there was that small, almost looked like that window of opportunity there for Krauh Andersen to get back on here is shrinking with every pedal stroke that Wout van Aert puts in on the front here.
Yeah, Krauh Andersen is doing all his own work here, but he's not far behind. And actually, Riley Shane has got himself back on, but he was momentarily distanced at the back of that second group. But I think we've just about got this zipped up again here, Marty.
Yeah, respect to Soren Krauh Andersen there, and this is where it might be key, is out of that hot dog turn there with Wout van Aert putting a bit of pressure on, but just takes that opportunity to take a little drink. Experience would show there for Wout van Aert, but Lukas Kubic is full of riding.
Yeah, they're not going to give him an awful lot of space. And of course, we've got that climb to the finish again coming up in a couple of kilometers. So, you know, I look at that and think, well, Soren Krauh Andersen, for example, he doesn't have a lawfully large amount of time to recover from that chase back on before we hit the hill again. And we've got another 2 hills on the circuit. We've got 10 kilometers to go here. We've got another 3 significant climbs to cover.
Have indeed. So then this finishing circuit, this right turn here into the bottom of the climb. And this steep little punchy climb, the barriers at the bottom.
Who's going this time?
So let's see who's going to move here. So Francisco Munoz in there, out of the saddle in those white, red and green colours. Here goes Pedersen. Pedersen looks like he's going to try and make a move. For Uno X, as he just trying to move himself up towards Wout van Aert. They're all anticipating a move, aren't they, from the blue jersey?
Well, the blue jersey and Christophe Laporte.
You can see just how tough this climb is. Laporte through to the front, ups the pressure we'll come through with 1 lap to go this time. You can see the pain just etched on the faces of the riders behind. It does put this climb into perspective.
Lukas Kubic, who we've mentioned a lot. I mean, we talked about him a lot yesterday, and I think he wound up 10th, but he's looking pretty good here for someone you think of primarily as a fairly flat earth sprinter. That's a little bit harsh. He's more of a utility rider than that, but he is mainly a rider for the sprints, but he's sitting here and looking pretty comfortable. And this group have just started looking at each other. I don't know, the next group back, I think, is 30-40 seconds behind them.
Yeah, Francisco Munoz there of Pulte just latches onto the wheel as Wout van Aert ups the pressure. Frederik Pedersen. And then Soren Krauh Andersen for Little Trek. There's Lukas Kubic just also there, just matches in. Kopecky just going off the back. And that's the beauty of races like this and days like this for where we see someone like Lukas Kubic and see what they're capable of as a rider.
Yeah, and you know, he has looked pretty comfortable. The same applies to Henrik Pedersen, the white jersey, who's just tapping through to the front now, and there's a momentary truce. Everybody's just looking at each other. And this is the group momentarily glance at the group behind.
You know, and a bit of a move there from Soren Krauh Andersen. Final lap This as well, if this just the way this circuit is, it is opportunities for riders to come back. A final charge up that climb could be something to behold.
Yeah, maybe that's what it's going to come down to. I'm a little bit surprised the group at the Bell is the size it is, but we still have that group of now I think about 10 riders out front.
The peloton, looking at the groups going through the finish, it's just absolutely exploded today.
Yeah, oh, it's riders all over the road. It's been a tough day out.
Our general classification leader, though, Wout van Aert, is full of riding, and just a bit of Uno X communication as Matthias Capecchi just tries to get back in here. A little bit, and there's the group ahead that we said we're going to get lapped, and they are.
Yeah, I think we're just coming down to the right turn. The road narrows, but hopefully we don't end up with a horrible tangle of 1 lap and 2 lap riders.
No, it did look like they were slowing them down a little bit.
Yeah, they should do, but you know it's a tight little finishing circuit and it requires kind of a degree of organisation to make sure you do that.
So the Unibet Rose Rockets team here back up to 3 with Capecchi getting back in there. Uno X Mobility have also got 3 riders in there. That's quite chatting at the back. So Krauw Hansen, Pierre-Andre Kurt, Wout van Aert, Christophe Laporte, Alexander Kamp, William Bloom-Levy, Henrik Pedersen, Francisco Munoz, Matthias Genten, Thomas Capecchi and Lucas Kubic. There's the lapped riders. It's Alexander Kamp, 43rd at 37 seconds. So that group there being lapped by the leaders on the finishing circuit. Does happen from time to time.
If you've ever wanted live coverage of the laughing group, there it is.
You saw some of the riders watching the footage that came out of riders watching the finish on the big screens in Paris as well at the weekend as well.
Yeah, it reminded me of sprinters using the big screen at the track to keep an eye on their opponent.
Yeah, it's always useful in the points race on the track.
Yeah. I was never fast enough in a pursuit to read the times. I always tried, never managed to do it.
Wout van Aert's full of riding here on the front.
He's doing his own work here, isn't he? What's interesting, he's not getting Laporte to do this. Is this Laporte feeling it a bit, or
is this just Wout van Aert riding with confidence and feeling, I'm just going to have a big day out on the bike?
And to be fair, you know, running into the Vuelta, having missed the Tour, he's going to want some big days out on the bike. But I got a long, leisurely look over his shoulder into the face of Søren Kragh Andersen there, just to see how he and everybody else is faring.
Another little look, another little dig here from Wout van Aert.
It's over the top of that little climb, so back onto the plateau. He's making them work.
Yeah. But Lucas Kubic is impressive, isn't he?
Yeah, but sort of a lot of riders sitting in the string looking, yeah, quite a few riders not looking too uncomfortable. Francisco Munoz sitting 3rd wheel for Multivisit Malta. He looks happy enough. No teammates. Doesn't look as if he's struggling.
Nice. 6.4 kilometers to go. This circuit is going to tick off quite quickly. So our leader, general classification here in the Post-Nord Tour of Denmark, is a blue jersey. We're currently being worn by Wout van Aert. The other riders in your leading group here, Søren Kragh Andersen from Lidl Trek at 20 seconds on GC, as is Pierre-Andre Cote, wearing 31 in those white, blue, black and orange colours of NSN. Christophe Laporte, teammate of Wout van Aert, he also sits at 20 seconds on the general classification, as does rider 132, Thomas Capecchi. Lucas Kubic, of course, sitting at 14 seconds on the general classification. Alexander Camp, William Bloom-Levy, and Francisco Munoz and Matthias Kopecky are at 37 seconds, with Henrik Pedersen, our third place rider in that white jersey of best young rider. He's starting the day at 16 seconds in the general classification, so a lot to play for. We've got a group of Riley Sheehan and Andreas Stockbro. They are just behind there in the background, but 5.6 kilometers to go. And at the moment here, Wout van Aert just quite content just to sit on the front.
Yeah, I mean, he's not riding flat out. It looks to me he's maybe content to wait for it to come down to that final climb. Of course, they've been up it twice already. And, you know, if you are riding just on the radio, whether he's talking to Christophe Laporte or talking back to the car, probably talking to Laporte, he may just feel confident coming to that last climb because he's been up it twice already with most of these riders in close attendance. He may think, well, I know I'm the strongest, so happy just to tap it through to there. I'm wondering if the Riley Sheehan has any chance of getting back onto this group, because it says only 14 seconds behind, and clearly this group isn't going flat out.
No, 5 kilometers to go. Also, it's what you sense that in these sort of slippery conditions that Wout van Aert on these descents, these steep little descents, he could just choose his own lines and just let the bike flow.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. We've seen a few crashes today. We've seen Wout doing a little bit of impromptu cyclocross to get round Ashley's teammate Aisling Barry, and he slipped out, and he may just feel, yeah, I've got a Vuelta to come. I've already had a season somewhat blighted by injury, so stay on the front and keep it safe. I think that's a good point.
Yeah, Wout van Aert, 55 career wins playing this season, of course. The Paris-Roubaix Classic, the one that he was searching for, that big monument that had eluded him. He then came back into racing, did the Marley Grav race, which we also covered. That was a great day. I commentated that one when he had a little step into gravel. Laporte attacks though. Wout van Aert on the front. This was what it looked like. He was setting up for his teammate here. Christophe Laporte attacks. And it is the Unibet Rose Rockets team. Maybe this is the first one, and Wout van Aert here will counter.
I think that's exactly the plan. I think that's what we saw Wout on the radio a kilometre ago. I think what he was saying is when we get down to the bottom of this hill onto the wide road and back into the end of the crosswind, give it a lash, Christophe.
So Christophe Laporte just gives it a nudge. No one wanting to take this one up. You can sense the sort of, as Wout van Aert counters, he said this is what they were looking to try and set up, the 1-2, and everyone trying to go with Wout van Aert here. He takes a big look under the armpit, sees that the riders are reacting, and you would sense here that if Wout, but the gap is growing. Look at this, Wout van Aert just opening a small gap. It's a few meters here and there.
He's got the experience not to back out of this too soon. You can attack sometimes and you just sit up too quickly, although I think he's looking over his shoulder and thinking that wasn't it. He's dropped somebody. Who's that off the back? I can't see who's missing, but no, we're all more or less all still here.
So that attack, the omnipresence of Wout van Aert, the grand champion, when Christophe Laporte went, they just managed that gap. When Wout van Aert went, you heard the alarm bells ringing loud and they all went after him. This is going to be an interesting final with a kick up this climb here, Michael.
It is. I mean, he just doesn't seem to have the snap to get away. The quality of the group around him, William Bloom-Levy chased him down there along with Alexander Camp. He just doesn't seem to have that kind of snap that's going to give him that 7 or 8 bike lengths and then the power to ride away on top of that. So he's coming to the finish with a bigger group than I think he probably wanted.
He is. So Matthias Kopecky moves up for Unibet's Rose Rockets. Lucas Kubic there just trying, you can see, trying to stay within the wheel of Wout van Aert. The Uno X Mobility riders in the green with their rider in that white jersey as the best young rider, Henrik Pedersen, as we just round this little hairpin here with 2 kilometers to go. So still in contention within this group. Plenty of numbers there for Uno X Mobility. So Soren Krauw Andersen from Lidl Trek, Pierre-Andre Coetzee from NSN, Wout van Aert and Christophe Laporte from Visma Lease Bike, Alex Camp, William Bloom-Levy and Henrik Pedersen for the Uno X Mobility team. Francisco Munoz towards the back there for Polti, Matthias and Thomas with Capecchi with Lucas Kubic for the Unibet Rose Rockets team. And there is Kubic just moving up. So our first three on the general classification. Lining out here, the white jersey alongside the blue jersey. Look at Kubic trying to move up here to make sure he stays on the wheel of Wout van Aert.
Yeah, he knows what wheel he wants to follow, and his mission today is a relatively simple one. And no one 10, 6 and 4 seconds time bonus on the line, so nobody in this group will take the blue jersey off Wout van Aert if they all finish together. But Kubic can get to within 4 seconds, and Henrik Pedersen can get to within 6 seconds. So Wout really wants to get those bonus seconds on the line as well, if he possibly can.
And that little chicane that we've got in towards the finish, that's going to be very much positioning is key through that point.
Yeah, you need to be aware of that. The fact it goes left and then right, in some ways it kind of has the potential to even out. But you just need to be aware of where that is and where that shimmy comes.
So riders just lightening the load here on the run down towards the line. William Bloom-Levy on the back, Alexander Camp on the front, Henrik Pedersen in that white jersey latched in on the wheel of his teammate, looking for a big lead out as we swing right here. Narrows down, you see everyone just throwing on the anchors as they go into that corner. But as they exit, Pedersen, Van Aert, Kubic, Laporte, as Alexander Camp looking to try and lead this sprint out here. The blue jersey, though, starts to stamp on the pedals, and Wout van Aert comes through to the front. Lucas Kubic, though, moves alongside him. That yellow jersey of Christophe Laporte trying to go with his teammate, but Wout van Aert here going for the long one on the climb, and this is where he'll really come into his own. But Lucas Kubic, doggedly determined, staying on the wheel, comes off the wheel though of Wout van Aert, the Unibet Rose Rockets rider, starting to power clear, and they go shoulder to shoulder, hip to hip here as Wout van Aert finds something extra, and the blue jersey starts to pull clear. Pedersen in the background trying to come across over the top of Christophe Laporte, but Wout van Aert goes through this little chicane, and Lucas Kubic is almost back on terms with the blue jersey, but Wout van Aert will now throw down the big power out of that corner for Team Visma Lease Bike, as Lucas Kubic trying to find something else to come back, but Wout van Aert digging deep, now starts to accelerate up towards the line. The last little chicane now for the Visma Lease Bike rider, and Wout van Aert is going to do the hat trick here in Denmark as he powers up towards the finish. The gap is growing to the second place rider. Wout van Aert has been set up perfectly by the team. It's a hat trick here in Denmark. Wout van Aert takes the stage, Kubic takes second, Laporte in third, Pedersen in fourth, and Krauw Andersen there crossing the line just ahead of Munoz. But Michael, what a finish. Show of strength there from Wout van Aert, but Kubic, what a ride from the Unibet Rose Rockets rider.
Yeah, Lucas Kubic took that all the way to Wout van Aert, pushed him all the way to the line. I mean, a tremendous ride from him. 3 stages in a row, though, for Wout van Aert. Takes the bonus seconds on the line, takes another handful of seconds as well. He'd love to have won that by more, but in the end, as a show of strength on the final climb, I don't think he'll be too unhappy with it.
I think it was the way he managed that climb, wasn't he? So he made the big effort. Take us through this one.
Yeah, well, I mean, he made the big effort at the bottom of the climb. At this point, he's got quite a decent-sized gap on Lucas Kubic. He's chasing him down, and Lucas Kubic is clambering all over the bike, just trying to shut that gap just as it pulls out a little towards the finish again.
Takes a big look over the shoulder.
You can see the smile on the face of Wout van Aert when he looked over his shoulder and saw he'd got clear distance.
But also, look at the effort of that one. That hurt.
Yeah, no, he was under pressure, and that I think the attack he put in at kind of a lap and a half to go, I think he thought that was going to be the deal done, and it came back together, and he kind of had to manage it with the help of Christophe Laporte from there on in, but it didn't fold out easily for them.
And there's going to be groups finishing for a while. There's Tone Arts in that group. Really interesting stage, though.
Yeah, you get so many of these terrific stages at this race. It's one of the races that I love just because there's such a mix, and the tough little finishing circuits, and it's really unpredictable. The Tour of Denmark is a really cracking event.
And 3 from 3 as well. That's impressive stuff.
It's the Wout van Aert show, isn't it?
It is. Wout van Aert takes the stage ahead of Lucas Kubich with Christophe Laporte. We got Pedersen, Anderson, Munoz, Kotick, Matthias and Thomas Capecchi there, 8th and 9th, and then Alexander Kamp rounding out that top 10. So really decent group, but they really made him work for it. But look at the gaps as well on that finishing climb. 26 seconds opening up there to Alexander Kamp.
Yeah, it spread out. Christophe Laporte actually nipping the last couple of bonus seconds from out from under the nose of Henrik Pedersen, which isn't the most useless thing either.
No, good finish
terms
there
of GC.
from Christophe Laporte. And our general classification now looks like this. Wout van Aert leads by 26 seconds ahead of Lucas Kubich, with Christophe Laporte moving up to 3rd. Henrik Pedersen in 4th. Søren Kragh Andersen, Pierre-Andre Thomas Capecchi, Francisco Munoz there in 8th. Matthias Capecchi and Alexander Kamp, our top 10. But the day belongs to Wout van Aert. 3 stages, 3 victories for the grand champion from Visma Lease Bike. It was those little shimmy-shallies, those little chicanes that he had to kind of negotiate there at the end as well.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing that in that kind of group, if the group had been, you know, a little bit more compact coming through that, it tends to just really single things out. It kind of makes it easier to sprint off the front, if you know what I mean, because it just squeezes everybody else further back and increases the size of the gaps. But to be honest, on the last climb of that, Wout van Aert had clear space. And I think actually the top 3 or 4 riders were all separated by a little bit of distance. Obviously, Laporte and Pedersen finished together. But even so, I don't think anyone was coming through there in that front group 2 abreast.
It's a dominant start, isn't it, in this race for Wout van Aert, and he's still got some big days ahead.
Yeah, and he won big bunch sprint, won a small bunch sprint, and won today.
Make sure you join us tomorrow. From Martin McDonald, Michael Hutchinson. Have a great day. Bye for now.